Hi there, parents. Deacon John Wilson here, Education Enrichment Director for West Angeles Church. Our pastor is Charles E. Blake II, and Pastor Emeritus Bishop Charles Blake. I'm really happy to be here today. This was going to be our first video of the new year, but after I saw it today, but then I got to thinking I should put it up right away. It reinforces something I've suspected all along, and I'm very concerned about. I know going into this new year with my students for class of 2024 coming up now, and watching the results of my 2023 students, it's pretty clear that the removal of the SAT requirement and making a test optional in some cases to selective private colleges, it is not obvious that it's going to increase Black enrollment in these schools for a lot of reasons. But a great article, shout out to Allison Rosen from the Save Math group. It's a group of us that got together. That was a big achievement in 2022, I suppose. I think it was 2022, and maybe it was late 21, where I began to get associated with some wonderful people in the state of California working to try to affect or stop this math framework. But we've gotten into some great discussions about educational achievement in our public schools and how we should be educating our youth. And that's something I'm thankful for in 2022. Anyway, let's take a quick look at this article. As usual, I'll share the link for sure with you down below. But there's an article here, and I think it was on Substack. Just came out yesterday by Freddie DeBoer. I hope I'm saying his name right. Shout out to him. There's a lot of good stuff on Substack. I'm on there myself. I'll be doing much more writing from there. I've done a couple things from there anyway. I'm opening up a new video channel where I'll be sharing a lot of my political and educational perspectives as a Christian man in the community. So I'll be doing a lot more over there. But this article here is an educational one. It says, don't blame the SATs for American inequality. I think he makes the point pretty clear that you might have to blame our educational system and processes for the inequality. That may be what you have to do. The SAT is just a scorekeeper. It's kind of shooting the messenger to get rid of the test, I suppose, is one of his major points. You might want to read this article, especially any educators that are seeing this, and especially any people that are in CSU. It's really a good article, and I've highlighted a few paragraphs here. And this is one here. Again, I'll put a link to it in the bottom where you guys can see this highlighted piece. I'll put it on my drive, then you can take a look at it. It's significant then that the past decade or so, by the way, this is a well-annotated article, you can click on any of these links, have withdrawn their SAT requirement. Institutions such as Harvard and the entire UC system, also CSU, by the way, and dozens of others have either gone test optional, meaning students can submit their scores, but are not required to do so. And there's a whole other thing there on that game being played there with, do I provide my scores or not? I think I'll deal with that in a separate video for class of 2024 parents who are thinking about those things now. All right, well, we don't plan to get rid of our SAT prep. We're going to probably expand it, and this article is justification for it. We're going to have 2 locations in the city where we're going to be offering it. We'll have more to say about that later. Sometimes the alternative is to further emphasize GPA, grade point average. That is the average grade students earn in high school, often weighted according to the perceived difficulty of the course. In other tellings, the alternative is to embrace so-called holistic admissions, is what they say, which means more emphasis on the essay the students submit. And I have a whole thing on that in a video I did earlier. I'll put the link to that earlier video below too. Either way, this rejection of the test is couched in language of social justice and equality, and anti-SAT crusaders insisting that the test is egalitarian, racist, or obsolete. I highlighted that one. I think that's pretty self-explanatory as background. With race-based, listen to this, with race-based affirmative action likely to be declared unconstitutional. I forgot, that's right. There's a case in front of the court, and I think it's possible that these colleges that are basing their decisions on race, a lot of them remove the SAT because of race. It might put them in an interesting position. With race-based affirmative action likely to be declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court early next year, the question of diversity on campus is as alive and laden with tension as ever. Diversity in this context means racial diversity, okay? And he goes on to deal with that later. Then in blue here, it's essential to understand what kind of student was particularly well served by the SAT. The kind, listen to this, the kind, this is one of the points of me doing this article, the kind who is bright and talented, but who had failed to live up to their potential in class. So if a student's sitting there at 3.5 and 3.4 and 3.6, because maybe they were working or the situation at home was a little tougher for them, which happens a lot in my Black families where there's no parents in the inner city, or if there's some kind of a distraction with working in the arts or athletics, which is another common thing I see. These are all things that tend to make the scores, the GPA, lower. But they've had experiences in their lives that make them good at testing. These students tended to be brilliant dreamers. Absolutely, I've seen that. They were the ones in possession of uncommon cognitive skills, but who performed poorly in knowledge-based exams because of bad time management or maybe no SAT prep. How about that? Resistance to the indignities of organized education, or an inability to prioritize school over their own interests. I just talked about that. This is a very important paragraph. I want you to ponder that. For decades, excellent SAT scores got students into colleges that they wouldn't ordinarily get into, creating opportunities to find diamonds in the rough who had perhaps never found their footing in school, or found their footing to an extent, but not to a walk on water with grades extent. And all these things in this paragraph could be unique for cultural reasons, not racial. And that's where I think we miss it. There's cultural facts at this time in America about the Black family in the inner city, and Hispanic to a great extent as well. And I bet there's some inner city, white families as well, and Asian families where this is true. But it's predominantly going to be disproportionately Black students who present. Now, isn't that they can't do it? That's where we miss it. This is a good student that needs something else to show schools that they can do the work. I mean, that's why MIT is bringing back the SAT, because they found they were missing good Black students for that reason. Then there's this one here in pink. The students who the SAT disadvantaged, in contrast, disadvantaged, were the grinders, those who were not particularly talented or gifted, but who are able to get good grades through ingratiating themselves to teachers, studying maniacally, always getting whatever points were available for the effort. There's no doubt that society needs, this is the most important sentence in the essay, there is no doubt that society needs both types of students. This should have been a separate paragraph, this one sentence. But the elimination of the SAT benefits only one sort of student. Only one sort of student, that's this student in this paragraph. I have a lot of students, most Black students are in that first category, but I have a lot of them in the second category who have these super high grades and got into UC, and I know they can't do the work. They're struggling right now because they can't get these points in class they used to get in high school. I don't think it's going to increase Black graduation rates. It may not even increase Black enrollment in private schools. What else here? I also say down here, I also highlighted this. Consider the claim that the SAT should be abolished. This is a good paragraph too. Consider the claim that the SAT should be abolished because it is not, in fact, a strong predictor of college performance. Oh boy, I love this stuff being a mathematics person. Those who make this argument often throw around the correlations between the SAT and the freshman year grades that appear to be low. But this is a quirk of how the data is collected, isn't it now? I've always wondered this. Such analysis can necessarily only consider students who got high enough score to get into a college. That is, students who don't get into colleges can't have college grades. So we can't know what they would do, can we? And I know they would do well in college, a lot of these students. My goodness, they just needed the SAT score to show it. Wow, this is a very important paragraph. I'm not going to read much more of this. You can read it on your own. And I think that's a part of the data we don't look at in considering students. So anyway, I'm going to include a link. I have a couple other highlighted portions of this as well that are really great. Like down here, of course, admission officers have plenty of freedom to decide who they'll accept, particularly at private institutions, as long as the schools aren't engaged in federally prohibited race or gender discrimination. The average college can select pretty much whoever they want to get into school. You know, I also like the point they make down here about very rich international Black students that are advantaged by such a system. This is really a good article. I wish you would. I also like this argument that is made here too in this I'm gonna call it an essay article, blaming the seismographs on the earthquakes. We blame the SAT for Black students not making it into college. I'm saying Black students, but they're saying racial minorities. You know, and you should really read this. This is really good. But I'll include the link, like I said. God bless you. Please feel free to comment. I'll be putting a lot more great content up next year. Subscribe to the channel, like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. We're going to be doing some really exciting things. I'm going to have to do some regular structured interviews and podcasts that will help students and parents next year. And got some great stuff coming down the pipe to help students succeed in college from a spiritual perspective and for emotional and other perspectives and career perspective as well. That perspective is very important too. So God bless you. I hope this article helped. I hope you liked it. I hope it has some things in it that will help you this year. We have an upcoming video for class of 2024 parents on why you should prepare your students to take the SAT, and they should in fact take the SAT if the GPA is actually high enough to do it. And don't rely on test optional and things like that. Give your student all the chances they can have to get an affordable, great college experience. Bye-bye now.